My wife's divorce therapist told her she should slightly open our marriage so she could rediscover herself. Turns out, slightly open meant fully betraying me. Welcome to Amelia's stories. Keep listening. These real stories about love, trust, and betrayal will give you true life experiences. If you're new, drop your location in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. My name is Michael Turner. I'm 37, a construction manager by trade, the kind of man who believes in showing up, doing the work, and standing by the people you love. For 15 years, that's what I've done for my wife, Laura. She's 35, a paralegal, sharp in her work, but lately, since her mother passed, she's been a different person. Grief hit her hard. I tried to be her rock. Cooked when she couldn't, handled the house when she broke down, and sat quietly when silence was all she could manage. That's when she started seeing Dr. Evelyn Price. A woman in her mid-40s, twice divorced, the kind of therapist who speaks with authority that borders on persuasion. Evelyn convinced Laura that rediscovering herself might mean testing her freedom. I didn't like the sound of it, but I bit my tongue. Who was I to argue with a professional? One evening, Laura sat across from me at the kitchen table. She didn't look angry, just curious, almost detached. Her words hit me harder than any punch. Would you ever consider an open marriage? Just slightly? That was the first moment I realized something had shifted, and not in my favor. Laura brushed off Michael's concern with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She told him this wasn't about betrayal, not about running off with someone else. It's just experimentation, she said, almost rehearsed. A way to keep things fresh. To explore but always come home to you. Michael, steady but cautious, laid down ground rules when he finally gave in. No emotional attachments, complete honesty, and above all, transparency. He clung to those boundaries like lifelines, hoping they'd keep the foundation of their marriage intact. But as weeks passed, he noticed something unsettling. Every time Laura returned from her therapy sessions with Dr. Price, she seemed more withdrawn, more convinced of the need for freedom. Her phone became a constant companion, screen turned away whenever he walked in the room. Nights out grew longer, explanations thinner. Late at work became her favorite excuse, tossed casually like a blanket meant to cover holes too wide to hide. The first undeniable crack came when Michael checked the clock one night. Midnight. She had said she'd be home by 9 after catching up on case files. Something gnawed at him, and when he gently asked the next morning, Laura's story shifted. First work, then friends, then silence. That lie, small as it might seem, hit harder than anything. It wasn't just about time or excuses, it was the breach of the rule they had both agreed to. And for Michael, trust began to unravel, one broken promise at a time. Michael's gut told him something was wrong the moment Laura said she was going out for a girls' night. Normally, she'd send a quick photo with her friends, a casual text to check in. That evening, nothing. No updates, no calls. When she stumbled in late the next morning, makeup smudged and hair disheveled, her story felt rehearsed. Suspicion gnawed at him, so Michael did something he never thought he'd do. He called one of Laura's closest friends to thank her for looking out for Laura. The silence on the other end said everything. Finally, her friend admitted there hadn't been any girls' night planned. Laura hadn't been with them at all. When Michael confronted her, Laura's face hardened before she forced a laugh. You're overreacting. I just met up with a friend from the gym. We talked, we had a few drinks, that's it. I'm just testing boundaries, like Evelyn said. It's nothing serious. The words stung more than if she'd shouted. A friend from the gym? At a hotel? Michael felt the air leave his lungs. He had agreed to slight openness, but this was betrayal wrapped in flimsy excuses. When he pressed her, Laura turned the tables. You're so controlling. You don't understand me anymore. If you keep clinging this tight, how am I supposed to grow? Her twisting of the truth left Michael gutted, realizing the rules they set together meant nothing. What she called testing was already breaking them apart. Michael's gut told him something was wrong the moment Laura said she was going out for a girls' night. Normally, she'd send a quick photo with her friends, a casual text to check in. That evening, nothing. No updates, no calls. When she stumbled in late the next morning, makeup smudged and hair disheveled, her story felt rehearsed. Suspicion gnawed at him, so Michael did something he never thought he'd do. He called one of Laura's closest friends to thank her for looking out for Laura. The silence on the other end said everything. Finally, her friend admitted there hadn't been any girls' night planned. Laura hadn't been with them at all. When Michael confronted her, Laura's face hardened before she forced a laugh. "You're overreacting. I just met up with a friend from the gym. We talked, we had a few drinks, that's it. I'm just testing boundaries like Evelyn said. It's nothing serious." The words stung more than if she'd shouted. A friend from the gym? At a hotel? Michael felt the air leave his lungs. He had agreed to slight openness, but this was betrayal wrapped in flimsy excuses. When he pressed her, Laura turned the tables. "You're so controlling. You don't understand me anymore. If you keep clinging this tight, how am I supposed to grow?" Her twisting of the truth left Michael gutted, realizing the rules they set together meant nothing. What she called testing was already breaking them apart. Laura's behavior shifted from subtle distance to outright recklessness. Nights away became routine, with excuses growing sloppier each time. Work conference became her new shield, though Michael knew paralegals didn't vanish for 2-day business trips without notice. At home, intimacy dwindled into a cold, mechanical routine. Conversations grew shorter, eye contact almost non-existent. One night, while lying awake, Michael heard her muffled voice in the living room. He moved quietly, stopping just before the hallway ended. Her tone was soft, intimate in a way he hadn't heard directed at him in months. And then he heard it, words that hollowed him out. "I love you." Michael confronted her the next morning. No anger, just a blunt demand for the truth. Laura didn't deny it. Instead, she said his name like she was trying to soften a blow. "Ethan Cross. He's my trainer at the gym. This happened. I didn't plan to feel this way." The mention of another man's name, attached to feelings she once reserved for him, landed like a dagger. Ethan wasn't just some stranger. He was someone she saw regularly, someone she had chosen over Michael. Michael's chest tightened as the realization set in. The boundaries they had agreed upon, no attachments, no lies, were shattered beyond repair. Laura didn't just cross the line, she erased it entirely. For her, the rules were suggestions. For him, they had been promises. And now he understood just how little they meant to her. Michael hated himself for even considering it, but the nagging in his chest left him no choice. One quiet evening, while Laura showered, he opened her laptop and checked her email. His hands shook as he typed in the password he knew by heart. What he found crushed the last pieces of denial he had been clinging to. Weeks of hotel confirmations lined her inbox, neatly stacked like receipts of betrayal. Some messages were explicit, describing nights together in detail he never wanted to imagine. But what cut deeper than the physical was a message she had written to Ethan. "Michael doesn't excite me anymore. With you I feel alive." He closed the laptop, numb, but curiosity dragged him back in. Buried in another thread were exchanges between Laura and Dr. Evelyn Price. The therapist's words were chilling in their encouragement. "Don't feel guilty, Laura. Following your desires is part of rediscovering yourself. You deserve passion even if Michael can't provide it." It wasn't just Laura betraying him. It was a betrayal sanctioned, even nurtured by the very professional who was supposed to help her heal. Michael sat in silence, staring at the screen, feeling his world collapse. The woman he had promised to love had not only chosen another man but had been cheered on by her therapist. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, and devastatingly deliberate. For the first time, Michael truly felt broken, abandoned by both his wife and the person guiding her. The breaking point came during what should have been a simple family dinner. Michael sat quietly at the table, doing his best to keep the peace. Laura, however, couldn't resist turning the conversation into thinly veiled jabs. She laughed while telling a story about people who never push themselves, then glanced at Michael before praising men who stay fit and ambitious. The comparison was clear, an indirect nod to Ethan. For weeks, Michael had swallowed his pride, but this time the words cut too deep. His jaw tightened, and before he could stop himself, he snapped. "If you're so impressed with Ethan, maybe you should have brought him here tonight instead of me." The room froze. Forks clattered against plates. Laura's face flushed with anger, but her sister, Megan Carter, stepped in before the fight escalated further. Later that evening, when Laura stormed off, Megan pulled Michael aside. Her voice dropped low, sharp with honesty. "I never trusted Evelyn Price. That therapist of hers? She's been feeding Laura these ideas, twisting her head. I saw this coming the moment she started those sessions." Her words hit Michael harder than he expected, not because they were surprising, but because they confirmed what he already knew. This wasn't just Laura's doing. She had helped steering the marriage into ruin. That night, Michael didn't lie awake in grief. Instead, a cold clarity settled over him. Survival wasn't enough anymore. It was time to start planning revenge. Calm, Michael shifted and gears after that dinner. Instead of arguing or begging, he began moving in silence. Each evening, while Laura disappeared into late meetings or locked herself away on calls, he gathered proof. Screenshots of explicit texts, printed hotel receipts and call logs stretching for hours with Ethan. All catalogued neatly into a folder she didn't know existed. Even the emails with Dr. Price went into the pile, proof that Laura hadn't acted alone. Once his case file was thick enough, Michael scheduled a meeting with Daniel Whitmore, a sharp divorce attorney known for his no-nonsense approach. Daniel flipped through the evidence carefully, nodding with each damning page. "You've got leverage here," he told Michael. "The house is premarital, so she won't touch it. With this evidence, you'll have the upper hand in negotiations, especially if she thinks she's in control." That was the key. Laura believed she was untouchable. She still walked around the house as though Michael was blind, her phone glued to her hand, lips curling in smug smiles whenever she thought of Ethan. She mistook his calm silence for weakness, not realizing he was building a case strong enough to end the marriage on his terms. Michael played the part perfectly, patient husband too naive to question her excuses. But behind the mask he was documenting every betrayal. Each lie she told, each night she vanished, became another weapon in his arsenal. Revenge wasn't about anger anymore. It was about precision. Michael chose a quiet Saturday morning for the confrontation. No raised voices, no drama. Just the two of them at the dining table where so many of their family meals had once been shared. When Laura sat down, he slid a folder across the surface. Inside, everything was laid bare. Hotel receipts, screenshots of messages, printed emails and call logs that spoke for themselves. Laura's face drained of color as she flipped through the pages. At first she tried denial, but the sheer volume made it impossible. Tears welled as she shifted the blame. "I've been under so much stress. After Mom died, I lost myself. Evelyn told me it was okay to explore, that I deserved more. I never meant to hurt you like this." Michael didn't flinch. He didn't shout. His voice was even, almost detached, as though the love he once held for her had already vanished. "I'm not here to argue. The divorce papers are ready. The house is mine, it was before us and it will stay that way." The words hit harder than any accusation. Laura's tears turned to panic. "Wait, Michael, please. You can't just throw this away. Ethan, he's not serious." "I don't know what I was thinking." For the first time, Michael saw the cracks in her confidence. Without Ethan's commitment and without Michael's support, she was staring at a future where she stood alone. And he made sure she understood. This time there would be no second chances. The fallout came swiftly, almost cruelly. Once the confrontation stripped away any illusion of secrecy, Ethan wasted no time distancing himself. A short, cold message was all Laura received. "This isn't what I signed up for. Don't contact me again." Within hours, the man she'd risked everything for was gone, leaving her stranded. Desperate, Laura turned back to the only place she thought she could find stability: Michael. She stood in their kitchen one evening, voice trembling, begging for another chance. "It was just a phase. I lost my way. We can fix this, please." But Michael's answer was steady, final. "No, Laura. You destroyed our marriage the moment you let someone else into it. There's no coming back from that." Her pleas dissolved into silence, and soon her life began to unravel. Dr. Price, when pressed, washed her hands of responsibility. "I only gave suggestions, Laura. The choices were yours." Ethan vanished completely, no calls, no texts, no acknowledgement of the damage left behind. Even her closest friends began to keep their distance, uncomfortable with the wreckage she had created. Meanwhile, Michael walked forward with quiet dignity. He refused to gloat or rub salt in wounds. Instead, he focused on steady healing, rebuilding routines, reclaiming peace in his home, and taking comfort in the simple act of living without constant lies. For him, dignity was the truest form of revenge. For Laura, the silence and distance were punishments she carried alone. When the divorce was finalized, the terms reflected every ounce of preparation Michael had made. The house remained his, protected as a premarital asset, and the majority of their shared savings stayed under his name. For Michael, it wasn't about greed, it was about balance, about not letting betrayal rob him of both love and livelihood. Laura, on the other hand, walked away with little more than regret. She moved into a modest apartment on the far side of town, stripped of the comfort she once took for granted. The confident woman who had once flaunted her freedom now faced overdue bills, unanswered calls, and empty nights. Megan, who had seen the wreckage unfold firsthand, made her stance clear. She stood firmly beside Michael, cutting ties with her sister after watching the devastation she had caused. "You chose this," she told Laura bluntly. "And now you're living with it." For Michael, there was no gloating. Sitting in the quiet of his home, he felt something stronger than revenge. He felt freedom. No more lies, no more twisted justifications, no more therapists steering his marriage into ruin. Just peace. As he reflected, he realized the truest form of revenge wasn't in shouting, or in trying to make her hurt as much as he did. It was in walking away whole, while she remained shattered by her own choices. Sometimes revenge is best served quietly, by moving forward, stronger, lighter, and free from betrayal.